Well, you know, some of the top techies at Wired Magazine and some of the top, video analysts in the country, and also in Canada and France, they analyzed that one Bin Laden tape where it looks like kind of the generic anime Final Fantasy model they use, and they just put a beard on it. Right. And you can see it's not even a good fake. And then they did voice analyzation in 2 different countries and had linguists listen, and they ran the real Bin Laden's voice through a voice key, and then they ran the fake Bin Laden voice through and said, number one, it's not even near the voice key, so it's not him. Wouldn't pass the voice key. But then they had linguists listen and said, no, that's a Westerner who did grow up in the Middle East, probably Jordan. They can even tell the inflections, who's lived in the West most of their life or all their life, who then did the voiceover for it. So they proved the audio.
Some language expert that just recreated it.
Yeah, 2 of them. Well,
isn't that something that they proved with one of those beheading videos as well? That those guys were not Arabs. Yes. That those guys were Americans. Yes. The accents were all wrong. And then also that the body would not have reacted like that it would have bled much more when they were cutting his throat, that he was already dead when they did that.
Yes. And then there was another video that they put out.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you want to scare people, you get one wacky dude that wants to go camping in Iraq. Let's just cut his head off.
Let me tell one more story, folks. Throw up a video graphic. Throw up the prisonplanet.com show.
Throw up that graphic.
I'm going to show folks. If you analyze this graphic, this is easy technology, and again, Wired Magazine did this. If you analyze this graphic, you will see that it was originally put in the first generation video layer. Okay? With the Bin Laden videos put out by a group called the Intel Center, which the head guy at it admittedly is the protege of Donald Rumsfeld, who didn't just work at the Pentagon, he worked in psych warfare for 2 decades at the Pentagon. Wow. So the former head of psych warfare under Rumsfeld, when he was previously in the Department of Defense, he puts out they're the ones that always release the Bin Laden videos. And then they found that the Al-Qaeda bug was put in the same video layer as the Intel Center bug.
Wow. Well, you know, the most hilarious connection ever with our government and illegal things was that crashed plane that had been to Guantanamo Bay several times.
Oh, yeah.
It was filled with cocaine that crashed in Mexico. I mean, that's just genius. That's just beautiful. When people don't want to believe that the government's capable of selling drugs, there's people that see billions and billions of dollars being transferred through the hands of criminals. You don't think they would want to get in on that? You know, a government that willingly lets people sell cigarettes in this country, because they're being paid off. They know that cigarettes kill 400,000 people every year, just in this country alone, and nobody cares. I mean, there's no politicians that are pushing to get cigarettes outlawed. They don't care. They don't mind cocaine getting into this country as long as they can profit on it. And the way they profit that way is just pure. It's pure profit, I mean, they've been doing that forever. If you look at the story of Barry Seal and Mena, Arkansas, and what happened with him, the guy was about to testify that he had been smuggling cocaine into the United States forever with the CIA, and they shot him. When they shot him, he had George Bush's home phone number in his pocket.
Yeah, that came out.
Yeah, I know. If you look into that story, the government has been selling drugs for a long time. It's quite interesting that we're in a war on drugs when it's very possible that the government is probably the number one distributor of cocaine in this whole country.
And heroin. Well, you notice that after they went into Afghanistan, within 2 years, record amount of opium coming out of Afghanistan.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that like a gigantic percentage of the world's opium supply is all from Afghanistan?
Yeah, 80%.
Yeah, they controlled that stuff. I mean, if they control, why would they? You're not going to stop junkies. People are addicted to opiates. They're going to stay addicted. I mean, a vast majority of them, and they're going to want that stuff. There's a demand, and that demand is to the tune of billions of dollars. And that's the same with the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War, it was a huge junk running scheme. I mean, that was a big part of the war. If you look into, like Kevin Booth's documentary was really good on the drug war. But if you look in the way our economy is structured, it's almost like drugs have to be illegal. It's almost like that's a part of the whole system itself.
Absolutely. Well, if you go back, Skull and Bones was founded by the British back in 1832 with opium money from the British East India Company. That was their main product after tea. And so when they made alcohol illegal so they could jack up prices, that went away. They then created drug prohibition when before cocaine and heroin was sold in all the drugstores to then make it nouveau riche, to make it popular, to jack up the prices. And so, of course, they've been bringing the drugs in all along, and they made it illegal to jack up the price.
It's amazing that people don't want to hear stuff like this. They hear things like that, and they think it's just wacky conspiracy theories.
Mainline history.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is. It's history, and it's history that's going on right now, and people don't want to believe it. It's kind of interesting. You know, it's interesting how much we're willing to bury our head in the sand.
But why is it bad when there's tens of thousands of studies and now hundreds of uses by mainline medical systems for the HTC, the chemicals that are in marijuana? But then you don't take Prozac, but you like to smoke a little bit of marijuana.
And you're a criminal.
And you're a criminal. It's ridiculous.
It's because they can't control it. It's because it's a plant. It's that simple. It's like you can't control people growing a plant. So you have to make that plant illegal. You can't patent it. You can't, pharmaceutical companies, if it's going to kill, 100 of their different products, if marijuana is a healthier, more natural substitute for 100 of their products, they fight against it. What's really fascinating is that Schedule I drugs in this country, the ones that are the most illegal, oftentimes are the safest. Marijuana, Schedule I drug.
Never killed anyone, but Prozac.
Exactly.
They admit over 300,000 deaths a year from prescription drugs.
Well, even crystal meth, heroin, those are Schedule II. Cocaine is Schedule II. Marijuana is more illegal and supposedly more dangerous than all of them. Meanwhile, it's never killed anyone. And I always use this statistic. 150 people die every year because coconuts fall on their head. 150. Zero from pot.
Well, a statistic we use whenever they're trying to ban guns using school shootings, and this has been the same every year for decades, there are more football deaths than school shooting deaths every single year.
Here's a statistic I always use when people talk about mixed martial arts, how dangerous it is. More people have died from girls cheerleading since 1984 than have died doing martial arts.
It's those big pyramids they do. They're like 20 feet in the air and fall in there.
Throw them.
Yeah.
4 people have died. 4 girls have died since 1980, I think 82 or 84.
It's something like 30-something a year die in high school football.
Yeah. High school football's rough, man.
Oh, man, I'm not...
A lot of kids if they don't die, they get debilitated.
Listen, I got on the first string, and I was a little guy, and then they, when I was a freshman, sent me to varsity in a 4A school, and after that season, I said, I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys who die, and they're like, there was that one guy that committed suicide, a pro football player, really recently. He was in his 40s, and they said he had a brain of an 80-year-old man with Parkinson's.
Oh, listen, a few times I'd have somebody run through, and some giant black guy run over me, and I'd be seeing stars.
It has to be a black guy.
Well, yeah, of course it was a big black guy.
No giant white guys.
I had giant white guys run over me.
The black guys are scarier.
Well, no, it just yeah, I guess. Well, no, that's who tended to run over me. Yeah.
The white guys kind of let you alone.
No, they ran over me too.
They just.
But I think the few times I got my bell I think the few times I really got my bell rung, it was a black guy.
Well, there you go. The black athlete.
Yep.
They're taking over.
What's happening in Ultimate Fighting with the athletes?
Well, the UFC is, right now, it's a really exciting time. There's a lot of great fights going on. There's a lot of great champions. Next weekend is huge. It's BJ Penn versus George St. Pierre. BJ Penn is the 155-pound champion, and George St. Pierre is the 170-pound champion, and both of them are pound for pound in the top, 3 or 4 guys in the world. They're the elite.
So they're little and they're super powerful.
Yeah, well, George St. Pierre is really about 185, 190, and he diets down to 170, whereas BJ really walks around at like 165, and he bulked up to go to 170. So they're meeting in the middle. They're meeting at 170, and I think it's just an awesome fight. Just 2 guys that are just born to do this, It's going to be incredible.
So
Alex Jones.
You're pretty excited about that.
You want to go? You want to go?
Want to go to the
Want to go to the UFC? Does the wife let you escape to Vegas for the weekend?
My wife lets me do whatever I want.
Look at you animal.
Okay, I'll go to Vegas for the fight.
If you want to go, I'll hook it up.
Hook it up?
I'll hook it up.
Oh, that's crazy. Jason Burmis would kill for that. The fellow you talk to who fills in sometimes. Last time you were on the air, he was in studio with us.
He's the guy from Loose Change?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what did he do with Loose Change? Was he...
He did a lot of it. He worked on, both the films.
Now, I know that, like, Popular Science had, like, a whole magazine article dedicated to...
Yeah, that's Hearst Publishing. Hearst Publishing.
Yeah, is that what that is?
In the Encyclopedia Britannica, next to the word yellow journalism is Hearst Publishing. And they also own A&E, and they run these dramas where pot smokers are 9/11 truthers and they're killing people and are terrorists. I can play the clip, the latest one. So it's pure propaganda, and they lie. They say, in the Popular Mechanics book, they say NORAD only intercepted one plane in all of its history before 9/11. That was Payne Stewart. And then we go and get the NORAD records and the NORAD spokesman after Payne Stewart bragging, in this year we've already intercepted 167 aircraft. Now, everybody knows, pilots know that if your plane gets off course, go around a storm, they send up F-16s. So that's one lie. They also said that Building 7 fell because the fuel tank blew up. NIST admits that isn't the case.
Now, the Building 7 thing, if you look at the way it fell, I mean, it looks like a controlled demolition, like more so even than Building 1 and Building 2. Is it possible that it was just a flaw in the construction, that a gigantic raging fire inside the building caused it to collapse like that? Is it even possible?
No, they've given 5 different reasons it fell, and now the 6th. They said the last 5, they were wrong.
Right.
The new one is thermal expansion. It's never happened anywhere in a building before.